everybody, and welcome to the next conversation that we're having as part of Empowerthon. Empowerthon is the inaugural fundraiser for the Parent Tween Foundation. So it's part summit, part shameless request at the end for a contribution of financial support, if possible. And so before we go any further, I want to welcome Tansy Muller, all the way from London, who is the carer or the caregiver coach. And we're talking burnout when you are a parent or a supporter of a kiddo with special needs or disabilities. So, Tansy, first of all, thank you for joining me. I so appreciate it.
That's fine. Absolutely fine.
A couple of housekeeping tidbits for folks tuning in. Number one, we are streaming live to our Facebook group, our LinkedIn channel, LinkedIn page, and YouTube channel. And so if you're in our Facebook group, we will actually field questions directly from there. So if you're not there yet, come on over. It's Parent Tween Connection right there in Facebook. It's our private group. I am streaming live and looking at it on the other monitor. We actually just had somebody comment saying, I need to connect with Tansy. So there you go, Tansy. We'll get you in touch today or tomorrow. But for those of you who are just tuning in, who maybe aren't familiar with Parent Tween Connection, Parent Tween Connection is where parents go when they don't know where to go to find resources that they may not even know exist. So we have a community for families, we have a community for professionals, but so often just introducing them isn't enough. There often remains a financial gap between families and the support that they need. And so the mission of the Parent Tween Foundation is to help bridge that financial gap. We just got our nonprofit status in the holidays of 2022. So this is our first big push. And so, Tansy, thank you for your time and your knowledge as we chat about life as a carer. That's what they call them in like Britain and Australia and New Zealand and whatnot, or here in America, we call them caregivers. But when you're supporting a kiddo with special needs, and you've been there, done that, haven't you?
I have. I have two young people with now young adults. So I've run the gamut of all of the battles for them and getting the right education and everything. And I'm still a caregiver. It's never going to end. Well, it'll end at some point, I'm sure. But it's personally, I've got a lot of experience, and professionally, I'm a special educational needs teacher and an advocate. So I attend meetings with caregivers and absolutely kick professionals up the bum and make sure that parents are heard and not just called mum or dad.
Right.
They go in as professionals with me.
Awesome. So I know one of the things that you mentioned that you really like to underscore for parents and we say parents colloquially, right? But it's grandparents, it's step parents, it's anyone in that immediate circle that's advocating for or supporting a kiddo with special needs. You said when you're speaking to these carers, the first thing you always like them to know is like, yes, we get it. It's hard and you're not alone.
Yes. And I think that when I first meet a parent and they're talking to me, it's almost as if, well, you wouldn't understand because you just don't know what it's like. And I sometimes don't in my professional role, if I'm going in as an independent advocate, I sometimes don't need to tell them. But they're, often I say, I get it, I'm a parent too. And you actually see their shoulders drop and, oh my God, someone who understands, who's been there and can, I'm not on my own. It can be so isolating, as a parent, let alone a parent of a child with what I prefer to call different abilities.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and that's actually, Tansy, that whole idea right there is what launched Parent Tween Connection in the first place. My husband and I don't have kids, but we have friends, certainly plenty of friends who have kids in this teenage realm. Yeah. And one family was navigating some really challenging stuff. And the mom said to me, I just wish I had other parents to talk to, meaning like other parents who get it, who've been there, other parents who aren't going to judge parent or child for the circumstance, and parents that can give you guidance as to where to go. Like that moral support is invaluable, but then also being able to connect to somebody, a professional, whatever the challenge is, somebody like you that can help them through it, that it's not just moral support, but it's moral support. And here are the tactical steps that we need to take as well.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And somebody who's been through it and learned the hard way. You know,
Right.
I've made, I mean, who doesn't go through a parent thinking they're the world's worst parent and that I should have done this, I could have done this. And we have to let that go and take everything as feedback of what we can do next time, so that it goes better. And that's one thing I try and advocate, that you know what, we're all doing the best we can with the information we've got under very challenging circumstances.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
So, number one, you're not alone as you navigate this as a parent, or doubly, triply, exponentially as the parent of a kiddo with different abilities, or with extra health or medical or academic challenges.
Yes. Yeah.
You've also told me that one of the things that you do with the folks that you support is help them recognize the signs of burnout, because everybody, and I think especially moms, not to exclude dads, but I think it's kind of built into a mom's DNA in some fashion, right? Of like constantly nurturing, taking care of everybody else. We see so many women, certainly not just in Britain and US, who give and give and give and give and give and give, and burnout hits without the extra layer of supporting kids with special needs.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things that we need to pay attention to broadly? But then if there is anything that's specific to supporting a kiddo with these needs, can you add that in too?
Okay, so firstly, I want to say that most women think that being a superwoman is a good thing to be. I want to tell you to take your superwoman pants and cape off and realize that if you are in a high state of stress all the time, you're likely to end up burning out, because it becomes normal for you. And you ignore the what you call IBS, or the heart palpitations, or the constant headaches, and you think it's just part of who you are, but actually it's your body telling you you are too stressed, and if you don't stop now, we're going to make sure you stop. So looking after yourself is one of the most important things. Self-care, self-compassion. We're our own worst judges. We see ourselves through this negative lens, this negative judgment, and we don't cut ourselves a lot of slack. So we are always stressing, every ping and pong and bing and bong on the phone, all this, is that the school again asking me to pick up my child? Is that, what's happened now, or what emergency is this, or what's on my to-do list that's like 7 sheets long and is just getting longer? It's all stress, and it's triggering us the whole time without being parents. Just as human beings, we live in this world of constant chatter and noise and notifications. But as a parent, when you're not getting enough sleep, and a parent of a child with additional needs isn't getting enough sleep,
Sure.
Usually, is stressed, has more stressors. Perhaps you're working as a carer and trying to manage different roles, and your relationship is up the spout. We say in England. I don't know if you've got that saying. It's going up the spout.
No, we don't have that. Can you Americanize it for me?
We say in England, it's just you stop communicating, you stop being who you used to be and doing things that used to bring you joy, because your whole focus is on your child, or in my case, your children, who have different abilities, who need so much more than children their age usually would. And because of that, because all of the other aspects of your life often fall by the wayside, and you put yourself at the bottom of the ladder and everybody else's needs come first, you're in a bigger state of burnout. You're going to hit burnout. And there are physical signs for burnout there. I did write a quick list, but chronic fatigue, being fatigued all the time. We write it off, we're bound to feel fatigue. We haven't had much sleep. This is different. This is fatigued even when you have sleep, even when you get a good night's sleep, or you get a night's respite, which can be quite rare.
Sure.
a loss of motivation and interest, even in things that you know that you should be. And I'm putting should in inverted commas because I
Right.
don't, anyone I work with use the word should on themselves.
Uh-huh.
So even things that you like maybe you like reading a book, maybe you like knitting, all of your interest just diminishes your quality of life. You're doing lots of things, but you're not being as productive. You're not actually getting anything done. So
Mm-hmm.
you're being at a lot of things, but
Mm-hmm.
nothing's getting done. And feeling helpless and hopeless and isolated, that increases withdrawing. On the flip side, actually, when you have the opportunity to socialize, withdrawing from people because you feel hopeless and helpless, you've already
Mm-hmm.
got a loss of connection, and part of you's thinking, oh, I wish I had someone to talk to. But then you feel so low, and your emotional well-being is so impaired at this time that you withdraw. I used to hide under my duvet. I'd get my daughter to school, and I would actually go back to bed. So I felt safe. I felt okay. And then before she got home, get up, quick shower, do what I needed to do. And withdrawal from friends and family, which is another thing. Friends and family often don't get it. They don't
No.
understand the stressors that are on you.
Mm-hmm.
So all
Mm-hmm.
of those aspects where you're getting physical issues, like I said, joint pain, muscle pain, neck ache. We carry a lot of the burden and the
Mm-hmm.
stress around our neck,
Mm-hmm.
headaches. If any of these are starting to increase or be there on a daily basis, don't write them off.
Right. Right.
Think about adding all these things up. I am not okay. Burnout is something that comes and hits you on the back of your head if you're not aware of the signs. As it did,
Absolutely.
as it did to me, I was carrying on and on and on and on and working and caring and looking after mum with dementia. And one day I got up, I put one foot forward and I fell. And I was ill for 6 months. My whole endocrine system packed up. And that was my body's way of saying, you're not listening.
Right.
You have got to stop now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the bad side. That's the negative stuff.
Sure. And I think it's important to recognize those though, because sometimes, like you said, like we just go and go and go and go. I've been there, and I'm not a parent. And secondly, I'm not a parent to a child with additional needs.
Mm.
I hit it, and if I can do it and I don't have those extra stressors, certainly others are at potentially a higher risk of it, right? So if we don't recognize it, we can't fix it.
The first part of my coaching program is all about awareness. If you don't have awareness of what you need and what's going on in your life and what's going on with your health, emotional, mental, spiritual, physical, you can't change anything. So becoming aware is the most important thing. And I have a list which shows what is stress and actually what is burnout. And when I run my mini courses, mini challenges, people suddenly realize, oh my goodness, I am closer to burnout than I thought.
Sure.
And as you said, you don't have children, but you felt it. It's not isolated to caregivers or to parents or to parents of children with additional needs. Anyone can get burnout. Carers are probably I would say about 90% more likely to hit burnout or to have their mental and emotional well-being impacted, so that they need to take antidepressants, or they're in a state of anxiety all the time, but plodding on and going forward. But there are things you can do to mitigate.
And I was just going to say, like you mentioned, that like antidepressants or anti-anxiety medications are a piece of what can be helpful to carers to manage, take care of themselves. Certainly medicine has its place, and there are other tools that we can bring in to have a more robust tool belt to help ourselves number one, as you say, if you recognize it, we can help avoid it or at least minimize its impact. But then what are some other aspects if you're like, oh, holy cow, I'm closer than I realized, or maybe I've hit it? What are some
Okay.
things that you recommend to families or to the carers to help them out of that hole?
Well, the most important thing I do, I try to speak about, and something I learned personally, was that I need time for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And anyone who's listening to this may well be saying, "What? You have time to yourself as a carer?"
Right.
It's not a case of I don't have time. When people say I don't have time, what they're really saying is I'm not prioritizing time for me, even if it's 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's 5 minutes in the day to stand outside, feel the sun on your face, or be in nature, or just sit and have a cup of tea. I don't know what you drink, but it's usually coffee is it over there. But over in England, we love our tea. So
Sure.
sit and have a cuppa and just close your eyes and breathe. I do a quick 5 minute breathing and self hypnosis session, which can
Mm-hmm.
take you from 10 to 0 really quickly and chill you out, and that those kind of strategies. But ultimately, it's building them into your life despite the challenges and situation you're in. And
Mm-hmm.
it's possible. Every person that has come to me has said, there's no way that I can take any time for myself at all through the day. And then I remind them that they're coming to the coaching every week for an hour. How
Mm-hmm.
are they doing that?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I had one of my parents was saying she didn't have time for a shower, and that she was so busy caring that for her children with very complex needs, that she realized all of her knickers had holes in them. And part of her self-care practice that week was it was during COVID, to go online and order herself some knickers. And just that one little act of self-care
Yeah.
showed her that she mattered and that
Mm-hmm.
she was important in her own life.
Mm-hmm.
So self-care can take, building in a practice of self-care, however short it is, even a minute, to sit, close your eyes, and just, what can you hear? You know,
Mm-hmm.
and a minute, that can do it. And then build it up.
Yeah.
It's not selfish to take a break, to look after your own needs. For goodness sake, on an aeroplane, the first thing they say if you've got children is put your own oxygen mask on. We can't continue caring at the level we care if we don't look after our own needs. So
Well,
that's number one.
and I was going to say, I think that becomes even more important when, oftentimes what we see with the generation of humans right now that is
Yeah.
supporting teenagers,
Yeah.
they are also of a generation where they are largely also committed to caring for their elders in some fashion, whether it's their own parents or grandparents or
Mm.
significantly older siblings, cousins,
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
right? So they're like, I don't know what they call it over on your side of the pond, but here on mine, I've heard it referred to as the sandwich generation, because this is the generation that's in between the two. And then when folks find themselves in those situations, I think that just escalates the possibility of burnout, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that it's like arrows firing at you from all angles. I've heard it as
Mm-hmm.
spinning plates every day, dodging bullets,
Right.
fighting fires. I've
Mm-hmm.
heard all of these phrases come at me, and I absolutely know what it's like. Even now, my children are technically adults.
Uh-huh.
They're always going to need care. And so I am always going to be a caregiver as long as I am able to.
Sure.
But what I now do is I absolutely make sure, just last week, I developed a chest infection, and I had to move a few things around. One of the
Mm-hmm.
biggest things that goes along with caregiving is guilt. We feel so guilty if we let people down, if we don't do everything ourselves. We have to let go of so much of other people's expectations, their judgments, opinions, and expectations are everything to do about them and nothing to do about us. And yet we take them on board. So I would say self-care, even if it's when you wake up in the morning, just do a brain dump just write, let it all out, start the day fresh, take 5 minutes to have a drink and just breathe for a little bit, really quick. Eating well, but when can I get out to shop, and when can it, prioritizing time is such a big thing. What can you have at home that is healthy that you can eat, rather than going, my favorite thing, nipping to the freezer for a choc ice. I don't know if you call them those, or a chocolate ice cream.
I was going to say, in my world, it's ice cream, or for some folks, it might be wine or other spirits.
Yeah, right? And eating on the go. If you can possibly create an atmosphere of eating at a table with whoever you care for, however difficult it is, putting boundaries in place with people. I'm not actually going to be available. When your child's at school, make a time each week when you're going to be off grid, unless it's an emergency. I'm not available on Wednesdays, because another thing carers do, they say yes to everything. School wants you to do they're doing a bake sale, bake thing, or a sponsored this or that, or the school fair. They want you involved. Oh yeah, I'll do it. You got to learn to say no. You got to learn to say, I'm not able to at this time. And I deal a lot with boundaries and we do a lot of role play about how to say no without feeling guilty, or without feeling that you've offended someone, because you've always been a yes person. People aren't going to receive it awfully well if you start saying no. So you don't say no, you just say, I can't this time, but maybe in the future, and you keep it open-ended. So boundaries are really important. And I just think self-care, it all boils down to self-care, and maybe remembering what used to bring you joy. What did you do before you were a carer? What did you dream of in your life? What did you always want to do? Play the piano, write poetry, paint. Even I get a lot of caregivers who use colouring, the mindfulness colouring books.
Absolutely.
And it's such a calming thing to do.
It is,
sitting with your child with autism, maybe making Lego. It's so calming. It's a self-soothing strategy. And anything that you can build in, even if you think I don't have time, anything you can build into your day that goes alongside your caring is great. But I would say, find time for you. Start off with a couple of minutes. If you've really got to be on call all the time, ask people for help. Most people want to say yes.
I was going to ask you, I actually was in my own business coaching today, and one of the challenges that the coach put forth to the group of us was to consider every day for the next week, what are 2 things that I can ask for help on? Because as human beings, we tend not to ask for help as much as we could. Like you said, we try to do it all on our own, and there are certain circumstances that kind of push that lever to the extreme, right? Where you just can't, nobody's going to care for my child the way I will. Nobody's going to mow my lawn the way I will. Nobody's going to clean my house the way I will. Nobody's going to grocery shop the way I will.
Yeah. It's like asking your man to clean the toilet, isn't it? He's never going to do it the way you do it.
Right. But it also, one of the things that I've learned in business is that done is better than done my way. and maybe it's not the way, no, my beloved is not going to clean the toilet the same way that I will. But if it's less dirty after he's done it than it is after my not doing it.
Yeah. I think it's, our standards are pretty high quite often. And as I say, our usual belief, men tend to delegate, women tend to cope and do. And to be seen as somebody, asking for help, I think the fear there is that they're going to think I'm not coping. That's why I need help. But it's a human thing to need other people, to need that connection, even to just talk, even to just bitch and moan or have a cry, and someone just to hold that space for you, to be yourself without judgment, and just to listen and be there and say, what do you need? A very quick strategy for anyone listening to this. People judge emotions as negative or positive. How about when you feel angry or sad or depressed or any of those feelings, just state it to yourself. At this moment, I'm feeling rotten. I'm feeling sad. What do I need right now? Ask your intuitive self, what do I need right now? I just need to sit down. I just need to sit down and breathe, or I just need to go and stand outside for a bit and breathe in the air, or lie down, or whatever, and do it. It's a quick thing, rather than saying, I shouldn't feel like this. Oh my God, I've got to do this, and this. It's like your to-do list. I say to all my clients, what can you cross off your to-do list? It's never going to finish. Your to-do list will never finish. If you've got things to do, look at them. Find the one thing that you need to do today and make a start towards that. If it needs to be broken down into smaller things, if it's a phone call, make that phone call and then relax.
That actually ties in a bit to a conversation that I had yesterday as part of Empowerthon with Michelle Porges. She is an executive function coach out in the Los Angeles area. And she was talking about, to the point of to-do lists, they're a mile long. They never actually get any shorter. And if you do manage to check off one or two things, you still feel often like an abject failure because you've only gotten 2 of the 729 things done. She said, stop. She goes, pick 5 things that you can do today. Write those 5 things down. And when you get through 3 of them, you're going to feel like a god because you've gotten through 60% of it. I know the rest of the list hasn't gone away, but this was what you were focusing on for today. And minimizing that, like lowering or not even lowering, but like tuning in the focus to the most urgent things and only looking at those can be a flip of the switch mentally to be like, wow, I actually did get some good stuff done today.
Yeah. And I have a time management process, which I go through with my clients, where we look at the week ahead and we work out one big thing that needs to be accomplished that week, and we break it down into 20 minutes a day or 10 minutes a day or whatever. And actually, let's get rid of I have to do that, and focus on what you have achieved. Let's have a to-do list, not a to-do list.
I love it, right? Yeah.
Let's have I made that call, and actually, I hate making phone calls. I don't really want to connect with anyone. I know it's going to be a hassle, but I made that call today. And don't even look at your to-do list,
Right.
As an executive coach, I can understand the 5 things. My to-do list, my work to-do list can be very long, but it is about prioritizing. And really, do you have to do all those things? The housework is always you hoover, the kid runs through with crumbs and everything, you're going to have to hoover again, so why worry about the floor? Maybe spend 2 minutes at the end of the day just clearing. And you know, it's focusing on what matters, and what matters is you. You know, what matters is your health, not doing, but
Mhm.
being.
Mm.
That's what I think. And
Oh,
yeah,
we could
lots
talk forever about this. I love it
of
because
so much.
I see so many primarily moms falling into this pattern, right? But then I
Mhm.
also see, in my professional career, I've helped kids in the college admissions process here in the States for 25 years. We have two main exams that they can choose to take for admissions and scholarship purposes. And I've coached them on those exams. And so I see so many kids, again, largely young women, falling into the same stinking patterns and pushing themselves toward burnout at 15 and 16 years old. Like, why are we still talking? Why are we even talking about it at 15 or 16? But then why are we still talking about it with moms who are 45 and 50 and 60, right? It's like there's solutions on both ends, I would think. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're asking young people to make decisions without their brains being fully formed in any case about their future,
Right.
um, and going back to this thing that we only have so many breaths in this life, so
Mhm.
many heartbeats. Unless you've got atrial fibrillation, then you'll probably have a lot more. But generally, we're here for a certain length of time. And do we
Mhm.
really want to spend it always grinding?
Right.
You know, caring or just being a parent, you know, most people go through financial struggles at some point.
Mhm.
Interestingly, we get through them. You know, I
Mhm.
remember being so poor, I didn't know what we were going to eat. I found things to eat. You know, you get through these challenges. You think when your child gets the diagnosis, you think, I'm never going to get through this. How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? And then you look back 5 years later and you realize, I I got through that. You know,
Mhm.
now I'm in the next stage. And when you're a
Yep.
parent of a teenager who's going to become an adult, this is another
Mhm.
stage. And transition is my specialism.
There
I've
you go.
worked in that for a long, long time, so I know how difficult. Like you say, we could talk for hours, but we don't have
Yes.
hours.
No, we don't. But I think that we've given some really good indication to folks of like, hey, here's what to pay attention to. Actually, even before that, you're not alone.
Yeah.
There are resources, there are communities, there are support systems out there that we can help you find. And we've got some signs of what to pay attention to as indicators of approaching burnout, as well as if you've hit it and you're full on in it, some strategies that can help once you're there, or even as you approach that point. The breathing, the self-care, paying attention to what matters, and what matters is you, I think is pretty darn compelling. Um, and it's not selfish to take care of yourself. In fact, it's the best thing that you can do to advocate for your kid is to take care of yourself. Because if you're not operating optimally, you can't advocate for them optimally.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
And Tansy, you mentioned that you had a giveaway. I'm going to pop this in the comments now. Can you tell us a little bit about what that is?
This is a little work, but book I put together, emotional well-being for carers slash caregivers. I'm over this side of the pond, so I say carers, but I mean caregivers, and
Yeah.
actually for anybody, any parent can use that. And if you do sign up for that, and I'll get your email address, I will let you know more about if I'm running free challenges and things which
Awesome.
bring more awareness around burnout and how to alleviate them. And also I do guided meditations and all kind. I do everything I can to try and throw care at my caregivers. So
That's
yeah.
awesome. 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 All right. Well, we're going to wrap it up, Tansy. I know you'll be back to chat with us more at some point in the future. Thank you again for giving of your time and your knowledge for part of Empowerthon. And for anyone
That's
tuning in, one of the ways that you can say thank you is to follow the link in the description wherever you're seeing this. Those links are going to be live forever. So even if you're seeing this like 3 years from now and you found some good information, please go ahead and follow the link with Tansy's name on it so that you can make a donation to say thank you, even if it's $5 or $10. Again, our goal is to help bridge that financial gap between families and the supports that are available for them. And up until June 18th, we actually have a friendly contest going among our participants, our speakers, that whoever is our fundraisingist speaker, 20% of their donations will be donated to the teen or family-focused nonprofit of their choice. And you, Tansy, have identified the Teen Suicide Prevention Society.
Yeah.
Can you chat about them for a second and give them a shout out and tell us what they do besides the obvious?
They're on a mission to end teen suicide, basically, because unfortunately numbers of teen suicides have risen. It was developed by one of my mentors, Jackie Simmons.
Yep.
Daughter's involved, other people are involved, and it's just something I feel very passionate about, because especially as young people who are autistic or have especially high functioning autism are much more likely to adopt this ideation of suicide, and
Absolutely.
anything we can do to prevent that, to support and spread the word.
And actually, if you're tuning in and you haven't tuned in to the conversation that I had with Jackie as part of Empower-a-thon, trust me when I tell you that you want to. She talks teen mental health. She talks about taking back your charge, or taking back responsibility in your relationships, or taking charge of your relationships again. She gave some really, really good insight. And she's just a dynamo speaker. I just so enjoy talking with her too. So anyway, all right. Well, anybody tuning in, you can find out more information. You can check out Tansy's website. You can check out her online. All of that information is in the description everywhere where we're coming to you live. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to her. You can also always find us at parenttweenconnection.com. So Tansy, thank you. Everyone tuning in, thank you, and have a great evening.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.